Hello, Corey Creed here from Social Fresh, Director of Training, and I'm happy to have with me Mr. Scott Monty. Nice to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Glad to have you. You are with Ford Motor Company, and I want to get your title right here. I wrote it down.
Well, you need to write it down, yeah.
Global Digital and Multimedia Communications Manager.
Bingo.
And what does that mean?
It means I'm head of social media.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. And so you just finished an excellent keynote, which we're very grateful for here at Social Fresh. Pleasure to have you with us. And you also just got done with a nice little podcast with Jay Bear from Convince and Convert. Fun guys.
I did. A guy I've known for 4 or 5 years or so.
Oh, you've known him?
Fantastic, yeah.
Great. Fantastic. Yeah, he's an excellent guy. We're happy to have him speaking tomorrow here.
Yes, indeed.
I'm going to ask you a few questions. I want to piggyback off of your presentation today. I was making some notes and going to ask you hopefully some hard questions here after, the ones you can answer at least. You talked a lot about Google+, but first I want to talk about something you mentioned just casually, and that was that Ford didn't do any Super Bowl ads. Super Bowl was yesterday. And speak to us a little bit about that.
Well, it primarily has to do with the alignment of our product rollouts this year. We've got 2 major initiatives that we're going to be doing this year. The 2013 Ford Escape, our small SUV, that's going to be coming out in the late spring. And then, of course, the 2013 Ford Fusion, which we just revealed at the Detroit Auto Show, will be making its way to dealerships this fall. So as far as timing goes, it really didn't make sense for us to be advertising this early with the Super Bowl to get awareness of those vehicles going. And primarily, well, I should say secondarily, we actually can't advertise farther than 60 days out before the official launch of a vehicle. It's just the law. And frankly, we find more creative ways to spend our money. The Super Bowl costs a lot of money, and we're very careful about how we spend our marketing dollars at Ford. We want it to be very targeted and to reach the exact people that we need it to reach.
Yeah, and you mentioned also around that same time something about cross-channel. You're doing a lot of cross-channel to make your advertising dollars go further. Speak a little bit about that. What does that involve?
Yeah, we learned with the reveal of the 2011 Ford Explorer on Facebook, not at an auto show, but on Facebook, directly to the public, that if we combine paid, earned, and owned media together, so paid advertising, earned as in broadcast and PR coverage, and then owned, the stuff that we have control over, whether it's Ford.com or Facebook or what have you. When we get those 3 working together, not just side by side, but actually integrated, so one plays off against the other, we have such an incredible result. We actually saw a result with that Explorer reveal that was greater than if we had done a Super Bowl ad for it. So if we take our time, we do it well, and we do it to the audience we need to reach, it actually works much more effectively.
Is that challenging from a personnel point of view, of getting the personnel and the individuals to be able to run all 3, and management and all that?
Well, one of the great things we've got at Ford Motor Company is this vision called One Ford, and it really came about 5 years ago when Alan Mullally came to the company and put this vision in place. Rather than all these fiefdoms that are either spread across regions or across departments, he said, you know, we're all working together on the same plan. We all have the same goal in mind. So this culture change that's affected us has really come hand in hand with social media, so that we recognize that social media doesn't belong to marketing, it doesn't belong to communications, it belongs to everybody. And we recognize that if we work together as one Ford, we can have such a greater impact, and we're all on the same page.
So the individual talents and abilities can still work together, even though they're different.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's so important for us to recognize talent wherever it is in the organization, and to be able to bring it to bear on campaigns or projects as necessary.
Yeah. Now, in your keynote, you talked you talked extensively about Google+. You said something that I found very interesting, that your Ford page has, what was it now, 183,000 people on it?
Right.
And you mentioned that if you just have one message to all of them, what really is the difference between that and mass media? Could social media, if enough people follow a particular page or a group or whatnot, and you communicate one message to that mass, could we be going backwards and heading back into the area of mass media?
Well, I think,
how do you prevent that?
Well, it's a good question, and I think you know, you look at the engagement rates on Facebook. If you've got a Facebook page and you know how many fans you're reaching, and you look at how many of those fans actually engage as a percentage of the total population of fans, you're seeing rates that are comparable to or even less than direct mail. right? And direct mail is targeted advertising when you think about it.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going on out there in terms of television advertisement and newspaper ads and things that we can't really measure, okay? So I think there's an opportunity for us to give people choices, to give them choices in the type of content, whether it's audio, video, visual, text-based, what have you, and to give them choices in terms of how and when and where they receive it. So they get to customize their experience with your brand. It's not your brand telling them the only experience they have to have.
So instead of you as a brand trying to put them in different groups, let them choose which group they want to be in?
Exactly. And you know, we haven't seen it get sorted out with Google Plus this way yet. I think the notion of creating interest groups or interests that people can kind of rally around is the thinking behind it. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but it's really no different, as I said in my talk, than a sophisticated email newsletter. You know, it's really back to the basics for us for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. And so how many pages do you have in Facebook for Ford?
We have approximately 60 pages worldwide.
And are you getting people to sign up for the right page? Is that working well?
Yeah, I think the people that are there for the right reason. You know, of course, we've got 2.7 million Mustang fans who are rabid, and we've got a smaller number, maybe about 100,000 or so, of Ford electric vehicle fans. And we haven't put the same amount of effort, and quite frankly, we don't have the same amount of awareness of our EVs as we do of Mustang. It's a great brand fixed with so much emotion, right? Yeah. And we find that no matter what the brand is, no matter what the interest is, if you can find that emotional tie for people and get them to really grasp onto it with their heart and soul, and we've been very lucky at Ford that we're a brand that people have an affinity to just inside themselves, then the more successful you're going to be at reaching those people and getting those people to take action on your behalf.
Yeah, because you can imagine two very different audiences, the Mustang, the electric vehicle.
Completely different. Although we occasionally get people asking us if we're ever going to create a hybrid Mustang, and you know, the rest of the Mustang fans just rain down on them.
And are you announcing that here at Social Fresh?
Oh, we are not.
Not
yet.
Mustang?
No,
Okay.
no. We'll let you know when we're ready to announce
great,
something.
yeah.
Okay?
And I'm sure you'll do it at Social Fresh. Yeah. Speaking some more on mass media, television is something we're taking a look at. With social media and with people looking at their laptops and their tablets now, just going like crazy and gangbusters, more and more people, I know when I watch TV with my nieces, for example, my whole family, when the commercial comes on, they put their head in their tablet, their laptop, and their phone. Does Ford take that into consideration when they look at their media buys and TV commercials, for example, versus online, and what the potential engagement? Are we losing, even though the TV ads are being seen by so many, do you think there's a lack of engagement there, or no?
I think there's a couple of things going on here.
Please.
One, I think we're seeing, just as I mentioned, we're seeing a return to mass medium. I think we're actually seeing a return to live television. And not every day, right? But with special events, Super Bowl, right? Season premieres, season finales, special episodes, etc. We're seeing a digital living room that's sprouting up, and people connecting with each other through this shared experience of television, but using Twitter and other media like that. Get Glue, that's a great example of people actually checking in to a television show, right? People are actually using social media to make these connections with each other beyond the boundaries of their physical living rooms, okay? That's one thing. The other is, I think any advertiser, any marketer worth their salt that has the budget for it, who's advertising on these major shows anyway, needs to think more creatively about how they truly integrate with the show. Just as we have to integrate paid, earned, and owned media, how do you actually do product placement now in a realistic way? You know, we've got a product placement that's going on right now with the show Alcatraz, right? Where it's a time lapse of, you know, what happened in 1963 when they shut the prison down. All of a sudden, all these prisoners are on the loose in San Francisco today, right? Driving their Ford Edges and Ford Mustangs, right?
Go figure.
But, you know, it's got to be done in a light-handed way rather than a ham-handed way. And we've found different ways with different production companies and different networks to work our products actually into the show as well as into the advertisements around the show.
Okay, and so it sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's almost a different strategy for live events that people are going to be involved in the commercials and whatnot, versus the shows like potentially that one that could be DVR'd and perhaps fast forwarded.
Yeah, I mean, another example is any kind of reality programming. Certainly, American Idol that we've been part of since season 1. Yeah. We're looking at different ways to truly integrate social into American Idol that doesn't disrupt the existing social relationship, which is the voting, right?
Yeah.
Through AT&T, but we want ways for people to actually have a chance to engage while they're watching the show.
Very interesting. Well, we'll look forward to seeing what comes out of some of those things and as it progresses. We appreciate Ford being on the front line of some of that stuff. Very interesting. You mentioned another thing in your keynote. You talked about experimenting, and you even kind of commended the president doing the hangout on Google Plus and seeing how they're trying new things over there. Is it challenging for a company like Ford that's so big and has to protect the brand to a certain degree? Is it difficult for them to experiment with social media? Is there a little bit of a hesitancy or nervousness? Is it a big enough brand where you can't experiment too much, or do you experiment on a local level? How do you experiment?
Well, under the radar.
Yeah, really?
Well, you look,
we
were the first brand on Google Plus. We did that because the social media team was out there. They realized this was an opportunity. They went for it. We have the creative license to be able to go and do things on an experimental basis. Our leadership almost expects us to experiment. They encourage us to go out there and try new things. We built an app for the reveal of the new Fusion at the auto show earlier this year. It was live for about a month. And we use the app to help reveal the vehicle in some ways, to talk about different attributes of the vehicle, and then on that actual data to put a live picture of the vehicle up on the app. Okay, and we did that with consent. We said we want to do something drastically different. We've done Facebook, we've done Twitter, we've done all these other things. Well, let's try with an app, right? And sometimes these things are successful, sometimes they're not, but we learn at every turn, and we figure out what's going to work and what's not, what our audience is going to tolerate, what they're looking for, and where we could be different from our competitors.
Yeah. So even though it's an experiment, there's a fair amount of forethought there. There has to be.
Well, we absolutely have to. I mean, we have a vision for everything that we do in social media, right? We're not going to do something that's completely off strategy.
Yeah.
But we also need to know that sometimes we don't know what's coming next, and we need to have the flexibility and the openness to be able to try something without scripting.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the auto show, and if I remember correctly, Ford was pretty involved in CES this year and last year, both?
For the last 4 years,
last
actually.
4 years.
Yeah.
And then we also, I know for myself and a lot in the tech community, see you involved with Leo Laporte and This Week in Technology and podcasts and things like that. Why is there an interest in that front line of technology by Ford?
Well, technology is really a big part of the Ford story. You look at the vehicles that we're putting out there that with such smart design and smart technology in them, there's so much now that even if you bought a Ford 5 years ago, we're light years beyond that now. And we recognize that the vehicle is the ultimate mobile device, right? And that when you go into a vehicle, you don't want to leave behind the world outside of you, outside of your vehicle. You want to bring it in with you. So we've made our vehicles able to adapt to whatever device you bring in, whether it's an iPad or a BlackBerry or an iPhone or what have you. Your car adapts around you, right? So we've created this notion of built-in, the hardware that's baked into the system, which is limited in nature because we know this stuff changes really quickly, so we have to build a shell. So built in, brought in, those phones or iPods or whatever, and beamed in. So data coming in from the cloud, which is constantly updating, whether it's the maps on your display or real-time sports scores that you're getting or what have you. Built in, beamed in, and brought in, right? And just that notion of sophistication, how we approach our strategic vision for our technology means that we need to appeal to a very different audience than the gearheads and the traditional Ford owners that we have before. And a lot of the folks on social media, just by happenstance, happen to be real techno guys.
Yeah.
Guys like Leo Laporte, who incidentally loved Ford before we even came to him with a sponsorship opportunity.
Fantastic.
So Leo is out there now authentically talking to people, right? So he's not only giving the Ford message to a tech audience, but he's doing it in a way that is pure Leo.
Yeah.
And we would not have it any other
Yeah.
way.
And are you seeing traction from that? Is that working?
Oh,
you
it's
think? You're
incredible.
confident it's
Absolutely.
working?
We hear from people every week. Thank you for advertising on Leo. Tell Ford my next vehicle is going to be a Ford because of you. I mean, all sorts of things like this every week that we get in.
Fantastic. Well, awesome information. Just on a personal, just out of curiosity, who do you follow on social media? Who do you find? You said you've known Jay Bear for a while.
I have known Jay Bear for a while.
Anyone else in particular that you find interesting when it comes to social media? I'm sure you're busy.
You know, I am, and I follow a lot of people, and it's tough. You know, I don't follow everybody every day, right? But there are a lot of people in my stream. I rely on my entire community to surface ideas and to help me discover the things that either I don't have time to discover or that I may have missed. And collectively, they are so much smarter than me, and I am grateful for everything that they provide me.
Yeah. Well, that is the power of social media, right?
It is.
And the trick is curating all that. So we'd be very curious to see what exactly you're following online, but we'll save that for another day. You answered it very well. Thanks again for coming out to Social Fresh and being a keynote speaker. We
My
really
pleasure,
appreciate
Corey.
it. Thank you.
Thanks so much.